And they said dots don't work. Clearly they're wrong. Hey guys, it's Dan, and welcome back to Unified Gaming. So in this one, I want to show you the Dotplar. This is a Magicka Templar PvP build for the current patch, and it's unlike any other. It is such a blast to play, and it's incredibly good in groups. You might also be thinking, dots, Mara's balm, like how? This can counter that, and it can really punish DKs, which are just really rampant right now. Is why I made this build. It's like the DK counter build. So if you have loads of DKs and they really bug you, give this a go. It's a lot of fun, and it also works on other classes, so don't panic. As always, I'm going to go through the skills, the gear, everything you need to know, and there are options with kind of how you lay out the sets and stuff, so do pay close attention. If you like what I do here, then do like, do comment, and do subscribe. It tells YouTube and me that this is what you want to see. And as always, a huge thanks to everyone over at Patreon who helps make these videos possible. If you want to support myself, there's details down below. So, race-wise, we are a high elf. The race, in all honesty though, has very little impact. Any race will do, as long as it's a Magicka focus race. We have max Magicka and spell damage. Our spell recharge passive is a bit odd, but basically if we have more Magicka we get stamina recovery back. If we have more stamina we get Magicka back. It's kind of based on whichever's the lowest. It's a bit awkward. And then you get a second thing to it is that when you do a channel you get 5% damage reduction. So if you're using Radiant Glory, this will kind of give you this extra damage resistance, which can be okay, but it's not essential. As I said though, race is kind of a bit, it's not like a deal breaker. And personally, if I were to change the race, I'd probably go with something like a Dark Elf, a Breton, or an Imperial. I think they're probably better, but you know, I don't have the crown, so yeah. As with kind of the attributes, I have 32 in Magicka and 32 in health. We aim for around 28,000 health, and then if you've got tri-stack glyphs, it'll go to 30,000, and then everything else in Magicka. If you're not this race, or you just have some slight variation, aim for the health first, and then get the Magicka up. 28k is kind of the minimum amount of health, in my opinion, for this build. We then have the Atronach Mundus to give us Magicka recovery, and we are a Vampire Stage 3. As for our resistances, really quickly, we do actually have, just with the armor buff, 29,000 spell resist and 27k physical resist, and on the back bar it goes to 32,000 spell resist and 30,000 physical. We are tanky, and this is even if we're not in that rune, we are a tanky boy. Our spell damage also climbs up by about another 1,000 because of the major and minor sorcery we have access to, and we have also major breach. So we do have a pretty good set of damage stats. One thing to note with the recovery as well, that does go up by an extra 480, so we have almost 2,200 recovery, or roughly thereabouts. So it's again really sustained, like rich. It's a really good setup. For the consumables, I use Witch Mother's Potent Brew. If you can afford Clockwork Citrus Fillet, do get that, it is better. I have 69k gold on PCE on this character. I'm not that rich, so yeah, I'm using this because it's actually more affordable. But if you can get the better food, use the Clockwork Citrus Fillet. You might be going, what about Tri-Stat Food? Tri-Stat Food can work, your sustain is a bit I would only use Tri-Stat Food if I'm, say, a Breton or an Argonian, when I have a bit of kind of extra sustain in the class, in the race, sorry. But you do need kind of a good amount of sustain on this build. And for the potions, I use Tri-Stat Potions, Health, Magicka, and Stamina. If you're low on something, pop one, you're good to go. You could use more specialised potions like Essence of Immovability, which is really good, but they are expensive. As for the skills, I'm going to go through all the skills quickly and how they work, and then I will give you some options with how you can change them when you come to the set section. We have Aurora Javelin as our stun. This cannot be blocked, it's really good. It bypasses armour, so although that tooltip is a little low, it does go up quite high. I'm also just going to quickly buff up just to show you our tooltips with the major and minor sorcery on. 4.6k Aurora Javelin, 11k Execute, which goes up crazy high. We then have a 12k dot almost, another 13k dot. We have an extra dot from this set, so loads of dots on the back bar too. Radiant Glory is our damage over time skill that procs our Valken Scoria that you'll see later on. It also just does crazy damage when people are low health. Flame Reach is a dot that we use. It applies burning, which does a lot of damage. We then have Reflective Light, which is another dot, and it snares people. This is the better morph in my opinion, but you can use Vampire's Bane if you prefer. We then use Fire Ring, which is actually Elemental Ring in the Destruction Staff. And what this does is when you use this, you do get an AoE and that can proc our set, which then becomes an AoE dot, so it's really nice. You might also notice that because it's a fire staff, we get access to the Ancient Knowledge passive. That means all of our single target abilities get 10% more damage, so dots and stuff. So this is a really good thing to have. Be a like fire staff on the front bar, basically. That's what I'm saying. And then for the ultimate, we have Shooting Star. This is a really good kind of burst ult that you can use at range. You cast this into Aurora Javelin and they cannot block it. You then hit them with Radiant Glory and then they're dead. If you put all the dots on them as well, then they will die. Like I've not seen many things survive that combo. It's just stupidly busted. As for the back bar, I have Channeled Focus. This is our armor buff. It also gives us 480 recovery, which is really good. And we also get a heal if we stand inside it. We then have Consuming Trap, which is our another dot. And again for the back bar numbers, Consuming Trap is 16,300 damage. Entropy is almost 20k, and susceptibility is obviously just burn and chilled and that stuff. Trap gives us resources if we kill people. You can use the AoE morph if you prefer. Honor the Dead is our burst heal. If we're low health, we cast this, it heals us, it gives us most of its cost back. If we wait a few seconds, it's really good. Degeneration is our damage buff. It also does damage to the target, so this is really good. And susceptibility puts Major Breach and all of the status effects pretty much. So this is like 5 negative effects roughly. Really, really good. And we have Blood Scion, which is the vampire ult. So if we are kind of really low health, we pop this and we go to like full health. It's a really good way to go, oh no, I'm gonna die. So really good way to get out of trouble. Talking of vampire, we are a stage 3, which gives us access to Undeath, which makes us incredibly tanky. So with the 30,000 armor that we have, and then we have access to Undeath, we are really, really tanky on this build. I'm going to go through and just show a few changes when we get to the sets, so do kind of come back to this section. But overall, these are kind of the best way to kind of use this build. Stack the dots on the back bar, switch to the front bar, put more dots on, then stun them and beam. That's kind of how you play this. And if you want to see this in action more, there's actually a stream on YouTube that you can check out yourself already, and there's loads more gameplay over at Patreon, or will be coming very soon after this video. Talking of sets, so what are we doing for the sets? Well, I'm going to go through all the sets and give you different options, so pay close attention. And if you do like these videos, then do like, do comment, and do subscribe. It tells YouTube and me that this is what you want to see. And as always, a huge thanks to all the people on Patreon who help make these videos possible. If you want to get exclusive perks and much more, there are details down below. So I'm using the Black Rose Inferno. This is the Wild Impulse set. I'm going to quickly just put on my damage buff so you can see the tooltip on it, okay? The Wild Impulse set comes from Black Rose. It reduces the cost of impulse, and it has a 2,913 fire, shock and frost dot over 8 seconds. It's basically 9,000 damage over 8 seconds. It is one of the best proc dot sets in the game. And what's really good is when we use Elemental Ring, it becomes an AoE, so we can apply this set on multiple people at once. I also use double dot poisons with this, so then I get an extra damage over time to them, and I use Sharpen for just more penetration. The second set that we are using is called Oblivion's Foe. I'm going to quickly just put on our damage buff so you can see the tooltip for that as well. Oblivion's Foe is a 9,000 dot, it's really good. When you go to the back bar, it's 9,300, it does a lot of damage, and it has basically 100% uptime. The reason I use this set is because when I push this on a target, it lasts a very long time, and then I can reapply it on cooldown. If I go with the other morph, I can then use it on multiple people. If it gets cleansed, I can reapply it. You can put it on the front bar and switch to the back bar, and then it will re-proc. It's just loads of kind of good ways with this. So it's a really, really cool set to use, and it will just kind of keep itself up and running as long as you're switching between the bars. So yeah, it's really, really nice. One thing to note as well is that because of how this is set up, Oblivion's Foe only turns on the back bar. So if we're on the front bar, Oblivion's Foe is now off, but when we switch to the back bar, Oblivion's Foe is now on. So as you saw a minute ago, I can hit them with Soul Trap and Oblivion's Foe is not on. I switch to the back bar, do nothing else, and it procs instantly. So as long as the Soul Trap is ticking, we will get Oblivion's Foe on that target. And even if Oblivion's Foe runs out, and then I switch back again, it will then turn itself back on again. It's a really, really good set, and that is why I'm using this set, because it has basically 100% uptime. If you cleanse it, you can just put it back on the target. There's no cooldown. It's a really good set, and for what we're trying to do, it's probably one of the best sets for this. I then use Valken Scoria, which applies a damage. When you do damage over time, you can proc the Valken Scoria proc. That basically does a bit of burst damage. But I only use this because it pulls Nightblades out of stealth. That's literally it. You'll see in the gameplay where I hit a Nightblade with 3 or 4 dots, and then this hits them and they come out of stealth. It's a really good way to counter Nightblades. So you can use this if you want. I think it's one of the better ones for this build. Or you can change this for something like Engine Guardian if you want, or just a set of your choice really. But this is kind of my go-to. Failing that, you can add on a mythic item and just use a one piece, like Magma Incarnate for example. I then use Ethereal Ascension or a defensive set. This is a crafted set. It's armor, health, armor, and loads of armor. But your block, stamp, sprint, dodge and stuff are a bit more expensive, so just be a bit mindful with your stam sustain. This though does make us really tanky. With this set we have basically 30k armor, so this is a really good set to have. And then I use jewelry with triple bloodthirsty. For the actual loadout, it is Black Rose Inferno, sharpened front bar. It's an Oblivion's Foe Ice Staff, and we want to go with defending on this to make us tankier. These are essential. You need to have Fire Staff front bar, Ice Staff back bar. That's non-negotiable. If you can get sharpened, great. If you can't, then don't panic. Same with defending. Valken Scoria on the head and the shoulders, and then crafted Ethereal Ascension and Oblivion's Foe wherever you want. You might be going there, Dan, both of these are crafted sets. What do I do? If you can't get a crafted set, you can change Ethereal Ascension to any defensive set in the game. Mark of the Pride is a really good alternative. It is one of the best sets in the game for defense. It's basically this set, but it's not as bulky when you're higher health. If you're below about 50% health, Pride is similar to this, if not slightly better. But if you're above 50% health, this is better overall. So they're very, very similar defense-wise. So if you don't want to use 2 crafted sets, use Mark of the Prior instead. Alternatively, you can use Mara's Balm. That also works. Or if you don't want to use those, you could just use a set of your choice. And there's no reason why you can't even add on an extra damage set if you want to just go full damage. So it's not like Dragonkin's Grip's really fun on this build. Makes everything hit just stupidly hard. With the traits, I've gone with all impen where possible, because we aren't really rolling that much. And I would recommend if you can get 5 1-1, so get 5 medium, 1 light, 1 heavy. Ideally heavy on the chest and light on the waist, but you know, RNG and stuff, they're not how I want them to be. And then if you can go with Tri-Stat on the head, the chest and the legs, that will help, and then sort of magic on all the small pieces. For the jewelry glyphs, you've got recovery ×3, which is really essential, and I would really just get this if you can. You might be going though, I don't have the Black Rose Inferno, Dan. What do I do? Well, actually, there's a way around this, and it took me a while to work this out. So, Flame Reach has its own unique dot, and if you have a Fire Staff on the front bar and on the back bar, that Flame Reach just resets itself. But if we go to the back bar and change one of the dots, like say Degeneration, to Destructive Reach, it now becomes Frost Reach, because we have a Frost Staff. We then go to our front bar, where we had the Elemental Ring, which procced our Impulse set, and we put on Degeneration. What this then lets us do is we then have an extra dot. So rather than losing the Elemental Ring, which was then giving us the Wild Impulse proc, we can then just change that dot to a single target dot like Frost Reach. So we can go Frost Reach on the back bar, that's ticking, switch to the front bar. Flame Reach, that's also ticking now, and they both last 20 seconds, which is really, really nice. So it's a really good way just to get that extra dot in if you don't have this item set. I also mentioned earlier about how do you counter Mara's Balm and kind of what do you do. Well, one of the best things for Mara's Balm is that it just gives you a really big heal if you have loads of status effects on you. The problem is though that it has kind of it needs 6 of them in order to be built up, and most people in PvP don't do that. So how do we get 6 or more status effects really quickly? The answer is this. The reason I'm using Oblivion's Foe as well is because it procs 2 dots. So I get Soul Trap, 1 dot, and Oblivion's Foe, that's 2 dots. If I then cast Elemental Susceptibility, you can see there's like 8 dots on there now. That means Mara's Balm is procced instantly. It's now on cooldown, which means they have to eat any damage you do again. So what I normally do when I see a target is I get on my back bar and I start with consuming trap, and then I push elemental susceptibility. This will land both at the same time with just all those status effects. So you're seeing this target here, soul trap, elemental susceptibility, bang, Mara's Balm's procced. If they have Mara's Balm procced and all those dots just disappear, I just do it again. I then push degeneration, swap to the back bar, impulse, dot 1, dot 2, then go for the javelin stun and spam beam. This will kill most players, and if they don't die, you can see all that dot damage just ticking constantly, and then Falcon Squirrel will be proccing on cooldown. It's really, really, really horrible. So that is how you can counter Mara's Balm. You simply go for Soul Trap, Elemental Susceptibility, and bang, Mara's procced, they're on cooldown. It's a really easy way to get rid of that set, and it makes so many people who crutch on it really panic, because they're like, oh no, I'm taking like 4,000 or 5,000 damage every couple seconds. It's a lot of incoming damage. So it's a really, really just nasty way to counter those types of players. And as for DKs, because of all the incoming damage over time, they can't heal quick enough because they have really big heals, but not great heal over time. So yes, they can get low health and get a 10, 15,000 heal, but they can't do it consistently because they can't sustain it. They can do it for like 5, 10 seconds, but all of our dots are like 20 seconds, 24 seconds, 20 seconds, 20 seconds, 22 seconds. The Wild Impulse is 10 seconds, but we can just spam it twice. As you saw, Oblivion's Foe is 10 seconds, but it just, because this is 20 seconds, you just swap bars and it's back on again. So our dots last really, really, really long. And that's why this is so good, because we just hit them with all the dots and we just leave them alone. They just die. It's like, it's that simple. And it's just such a fun way to play this class. As I said though, this isn't your kind of go and 1vx build. It's not that at all. It's sit in a group if you can. If you do get caught out, you are tanky enough to survive until allies come or to you move away. But if it's a 1v1, you can just out damage them in most cases. The last thing to go through is just the champion points if you want to go in Cyrodiil. CP wise, Deadly Aim increases all our dot damage and just single target like beam and stuff. Damage over time is Thaumaturge, which is great. Wrathful Strikes increases our dots, and Ironclad makes us tankier. For the blue ones, we have Pain's Refuge. This makes us just tanky. Bastion means we hit sorcerers really hard, and because we have so many damage over times, it just strips their shields really quick. We have Celerity for more movement speed, and I use Slippery because we don't have a big stand pool, so if we do get hit with a stun or something, it works instantly and it gives us a bit more of a reprieve on our stand bar. And on the green ones, I use War Mount, Gifted Rider, Steed's Blessing. If you want to save money, you could go with like Rationer or Liquid Efficiency, so those are good ones here. But that's kind of the CP, and that's kind of all of the stuff. The only thing I would like to mention before I wrap it up here is, what do you do if you don't have the Inferno? I've shown you how to change the skills. You could change this if you want to just use Oblivion's Foe in both bars. There's no reason you can't. Or what you could do, if you have the Ratajan Ice Staff or Fire Staff, put this on the front bar, and you simply just move the Elemental Susceptibility to the front bar. Done. You get the same sort of effect. So this is really good. You just simply go for Soul Consuming Trap, degen swap, and then go the Elemental Susceptibility, and you proc the Vate Destro. So you can swap this for the Vate if you have it. Alternatively, you could just go with just another Oblivion's Foe staff. There's no reason that wouldn't hurt, or Willpower is even okay. Or you go like the Master's staff, because that will proc the make our reach a bit cheaper to use. It gives extra spell damage, 600. So there are options there. Or you could go with a Mythic. But yeah, that's kind of the build. And this video is quite long, but as you can tell, I absolutely love this build. It's such a fun way to play, and there's more builds like this on Patreon that are coming up, just wacky ideas that actually work and just give you a different way to play the game. So if you want to support myself, there's details down below, and as always, a huge thanks to everyone that is subscribed and just keeps up to date with the future content. It really means a lot. But I'm going to catch you in the next video, guys, so thanks for watching, take care, and bye.